Someone's going to get some late recordings because I was going through all that and didn't record. So you guys will get some extra info. Another current market valuation.com really does do a great job. Here's the 10s and 2s. You can see that we almost inverted right there. But remember, just like what I just went through, it doesn't really tell us the whole story. You can actually come up here early on and you do the 10 years minus the 3-month. And that's a more important spread. And you can see that that is way, way away from being inverted, right? And that's the more important one to know if the Fed is over tightening, right? And you can see here, so inversion, recycle, recession, inversion, recession, inversion, recession, inversion, recession, inversion, recession, inversion. It's just a repeating cycle, right? So that's why people look at the recessions and stuff like that. But this tells us where the Fed is at and if we actually are over tightening. You can see that we over tightened in 2019, right before 2020's meltdown. I think that was actually 2020 that we were still inverted. And the 10s and 2s are far behind, right? Typically, the 10s and 2s match up because it's normally the entire yield curve that matches that. But just like what we went through, you can see that the Fed is artificially suppressing and they're so far behind the curve that they're actually still stimulating artificially. They are stimulating by this much suppression. They are actually stimulating very, very, very similar to what happened in, I think 94 is probably going to be the best one that I can grab. Here's 94. Yeah. So in that 94 time period, here you go. You can see kind of just had to kind of get it right here. But you can see here that the bond market participants are supposed to be up here and the Fed is really juicing it down right here, right? So there's about, an almost a 2% spread at some point in time in this period. You can see this kind of, they're just really behind the curve. So what that does is when the growth is slowing down, they can actually like keep the stimulation on and it can create a whole new leg of stock market run up because of this high inflation, cheap debt, a growth of the business cycle, basically. So that's what they're attempting to do right now. So it'd be kind of cool if we go through another .com. Who knows? We might get some automation going in here and like robotics and bringing production back to the US. I mean, there can be all sorts of really cool things on the horizon that we can do. For right now, we are in the transition of a business cycle. So we have not inverted the front end of the yield curve. So the Fed isn't tightening. So they're not going to necessarily be the ones that cause the recession like they have done in the past. Unless they start to really crank up and they really start to sell assets and they really start to over tighten. It is possible that they end up crashing it then, but that isn't happening right now. So just a general overview of kind of what's going on. The yield curve or the yield current market valuation is a really great little site if you want to see kind of where the 3 months are and the 10 years. You can kind of grab right here. They also have a really awesome one. I love the Buffett indicator. You can see kind of long-term how expensive stocks are. And you can kind of see here, this was basically where we were before we corrected. Very similar to the .com bubble type of valuations, right? Yields were significantly higher back then though. So very similar to the 60s and 70s before the inflation came up. So very similar. Like I said, coming into the 70s, we had really high inflation and eventually we ended up raising interest rates and trying to slow down inflation and had two very, very, very large corrections in the stocks. We had a 30% correction in 70, and then eventually in 74, we had a 50% correction. So, who knows? We could go through that again. The sleep well and the awake will really, they'll be fine and they'll enjoy that. We'll just be in certain assets rather than stocks during those time periods. Alrighty, guys. I have basically crushed through a ton of stuff and gave a pretty decent overview. I know that I didn't get the recording, so anyone that actually showed up live got some extra bonuses. And as far as if there's any more questions, you can pop them through really quick, which I did just get one. So thanks, Wayne. Makes sense of stuff I was confused in college. Mentioned a couple of times putting it together, options trading course. Let's see. But you had mentioned a couple of times putting together an options trading course. Just wondering where that stood. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, JT, I am still putting that together. I'm actually building a whole second site that's going to kind of house everything because how I trade options is based on the environment, the macroeconomic environment, the volatility environment, all sorts of different things go into how I trade. And I'm working on this very diligently, and I'm working with a new partner to bring that to you guys so that I can that we can have this environmental indicator. At the same time, I'm always cognizant of whether it's going to be an edge that can be suppressed by too much capital coming into it. And so I'm definitely making sure that it's held to people that are part of the service and only to the service, and it's not necessarily something that's going to be crushed. So yes, JT, I'm working on it very diligently. I'm really, really hoping to have it all done by July, but we'll see. We will see. I'll at least have a few strategies out by then, and kind of I'm going to release probably 3 of them right off the bat, and depending on kind of how someone wants to go about things. I like to trade less and get more return. That's just kind of how I function. If I'm going to put on, let's just say, a butterfly, I don't want to put on a butterfly every month because that's what I do. I want to put on a butterfly because it's a good environment for it. I want to put on a butterfly because it's got high expectancy, and I don't want to waste my capital. I want to be in, get my money, and get the heck out of Dodge and live my life. So that's the whole goal behind it, and I'm still creating it for you guys. I'm really excited, and it'll be really fun when it does come out. So thanks for asking, JT. All right, guys, I'm going to stop it here, and I will talk to you guys soon. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, you can always reach out to me, Wayne at aramir.com, and I'll talk to you guys soon.